Good morning, everyone. Me, Chandra Luitel, my colleagues Binod, Prasad, Pant, and Indra Shrestha. On behalf of three of us, I'm making this presentation for our conference on autoethnography. Our topic today is integrating hearts and souls into STEM education through an arts-based autoethnography, a proposal for transformative STEM education research. A warm greeting from Kathmandu University, Nepal. This presentation aims at showcasing our ongoing research program around the theme, around the idea, notion of transformative STEM education. In this presentation, on behalf of my colleagues and myself, I would like to make a presentation about our research problem and our notion of transformative education research and the role of autoethnography in that research program, and together with some examples of our research of our dissertation and thesis. Okay, so let me begin. Thank you very much for watching this video. Let me start with the research context. Actually, we have outlined three major problems that we have been facing. The one is culturally decontextualized nature of STEM education. Elsewhere, we have argued in our publications that how this has actually been problematic for many of Nepali students. The other problem is that one size fits all approach in terms of teaching, learning, and assessment. And the third problem that we discussed elsewhere is the challenges posed by quick fix to STEM education reform. The quick fix is that we tend to change some subject matter or some approaches, and then without seriously looking into the assumptions, values, and beliefs that are enshrined in those STEM education programs. And this gives rise to a host of, these problems give rise to a host of other issues like underachievement, disengagement, business as usual attitude, victim blaming, and dissatisfaction in the receiving end. If we have these problems, this might be the root cause, these three might be the root cause, and these are the problems or effect there. Then we can have three possibilities in terms of research, okay? I'm not simplifying, but I'm sort of making it a bit generic. The first which would be people might be interested in looking into the specific variables. They may collect quantitative information and do some kind of quantitative analysis, okay? So this is focusing more on selected variables, more reductionist approach. Second would be the researchers might be interested in looking into some processes, some context-specific processes or issues, and without seriously looking into the structural aspects. The third would be that type of research which might challenge the disempowering structures, values, beliefs, so on and so forth, and also engage in envisioning inclusive, empowering alternatives. So our approach at this stage is this third type. Okay, so that's why we call ourselves as Transformative Education Research Group. So why we are so interested in this type of research? And of course, there are different forms of transformative research, and we choose one of them, which is research as and for transformative professional development. So meaning that our researchers engage them in their professional context, look and examine their one lived experience as teacher, as learner, as teacher educator, and they also engage in the field work as well. But primarily, they start with their one problem, their one lived experiences. So what are the assumptions behind this type of research? So the first of which is, if we look into the history of human civilizations, humans can change themselves. Okay, change is not simply the displacement here, but change in a more qualitative term. They can change others. Likewise, such change make visible impact within and outside of us. It's not just within us, but in our relation, in our being in the world, in our actions, in our communication, in our performance, in public performance. So the change is not just inside thing. Again, one of the important assumptions is that we need heightened consciousness at the higher level, so that we can understand the change, we can see the change, or we can feel the change. Similarly, the other assumptions, one of many assumptions, is that change entails a multi-pronged, a multi-dimensional, and multi-paradigmatic process. It's not just linear, displacement-driven process. It's multi-pronged, it is non-linear, it is multi-dimensional, and multi-paradigmatic process. Then how can we conceive the research design space? Before we present research design space, then before that we need to actually look into different research paradigms. I have actually omitted positivism, but because post-positivism represents many of the elements of positivism, and we use lesser aspects of positivism because there is less to offer as far as transformative research is concerned. One quality that we might have been using is control, because if we are to think of a research project in terms of MPhil or PhD or a master's research project, then there has to be a beginning and there has to be an end. So is there somewhat control kind of thing is needed? So probably that element comes from post-positivism. Second is post-positivism, as a worldview, it has particular set of logics and genres it offers as to how we can think and as to how we can represent something that we consider as knowledge, or we consider something our learning, our understanding. So this much we use from post-positivism. Then we move into interpretivism, because interpretivism allows us to explain in a contextual manner. So it allows researchers to explore the cultural explanation of their experiences. Likewise, we use critical reflexivity and criticalism. Criticalism enables us to examine our cherished beliefs, values, assumptions, and also look into the systemic distortion as well. Likewise, it engages researchers in ideology critique. Likewise, it engages researchers in praxis and also in advocacy as well. Likewise, we also use postmodernism, which allows us to use a range of arts-based research perspectives, research methodologies. Likewise, it is an autobiographical tone in terms of our representation. It also helps us to conceive multiple logics and genres. Here, our notion of logics is not driven by the logocentric notion of reasoning. Rather, we have also combined mythopoetic traditions as well. That's why we use postmodernism in our research in order to not just to deconstruct, but to open up the possibility. So in this way, our research design is something like this. So from interpretivism, we generate meaning, context-based explanation. From criticalism, we enable researchers to provide critique of, that can be ideology critique, that can be the critical analysis of praxis, that can be something which has to do with advocacy. Likewise, postmodernism enables us to see the world from pluralistic and perspective. So in this way, we come up with the integral design space, which has a transformative intent. Likewise, it uses arts-based approaches. Likewise, there is a primacy of cultural context of personal experience, cultural explanation, or cultural context of personal explanation. And this is actually, we can name it, arts-based autoethnographic inquiry or transformative autoethnographic inquiry. So this is the kind of research design we use here. As far as autoethnography is concerned, we have used SLAS to enable researchers to bring their personal experiences together with the component, fieldwork component as well. That's why they sort of, although there is already this ethnographic components in autoethnography, but we want to make it more visible, both more visible, the personal side and the cultural side as well. That's why in our approach, we use this three-stage approach. The first is framing stage. Here, the researcher look into their one problem, their one professional context, personal and professional context. From there, they frame their research problem, and then they expand their narrative, or they look deeply into themselves sometime, and also add a little bit of fieldwork component and engage in envisioning. Actually, if we use critical theory perspective in research, the moment we critique, that is the moment we begin to imagine, we begin to envision something new. And together with postmodernism and other discourses, help researchers to imagine a future. As Maxine Green says, it is our human dimension that we imagine. It's not like error-free imagination. There might be errors, but imagination or envisioning is very, very important component as far as practitioner research, as far as transformative research is concerned. Or we can put it this way. The framing of the problem, this is the first stage, and second would be the narrative reflective discussion together with the help of literature. They engage with theory from the very beginning, because this is, as far as transformative research is concerned, the important component of this transformative research is axiology, the critical dimension. So without which we cannot frame the research problem. Again, they engage in their in the field work, in unpacking the phenomenon, whatever that is, together with the help of literature. And the final stage was the envisioning of good educational life. Or if you are to consider transformative research, the major goal of transformative research is to envision a good life. And if we are educational professional, if we are STEM professionals, then we need to envision STEM, what can STEM education offer in terms of envisioning a good life. So from these perspectives, these are some of our ongoing research. For example, these are some of the PhD research, ongoing research. The first of which is how do I envision a transformative STEM education program to promote meaningful learning in schools of a rural village in Nepal. This is ongoing PhD research. This is, I think, the research will be completed in a year. How has the colonial legacy been embedded in mathematics teacher education in Nepal, and how I and my research participants construct visions for an empowering mathematics teacher education in Nepal. This is ongoing. The proposal has just been accepted or approved. The third research question: how have I been making a shift in my identity from a subservient teacher to an empowered mathematics teacher educator? This is also a PhD research ongoing. The proposal is being prepared, and likewise the final one in this list is the how do global and local educational perspectives contribute towards developing a vision for multidisciplinary math education in Nepal. This is also ongoing PhD. So the last two are in the final stage of their proposal defense. The first one is in advanced stage. The second one has already completed the proposal, defended the proposal, and he got approved, and he's in doing his fieldwork. So in this way, this is the scenario of ongoing research program, and they have the important component of this research is that they engage in their narratives, whether they do fieldwork or they use their narrative in a retrospective manner. That there is a significant role of narrative, and through the narratives they actually engage in critiquing and envisioning, critiquing the existing situation, the status quo, ideology, ideologies and widespread ideologies, and so on and so forth, and also generate praxis for the future. Likewise, there are other examples of completed research. For example, how have I been conceiving key features of motherly math education in my practice? How have I envisaged developing empowering beliefs about the nature of mathematics, curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment in my practice as a teacher educator? And how have I constructed a transformative vision of intelligence for an education that may address the issues of justice, democracy, empowerment, and active citizenship. These these ample theses were produced by mathematics educators, and all of them are doing PhD right now. Genres and logic. If we look into, as I said earlier, one of the hallmarks of this research is to use multiple genres and logics. So it's not just to rely on conventional analytical, deductive, propositional logics and genres, but to look for other alternatives so that the researchers can express themselves, can unpack the issues from various vantage points. So here, let me just clarify two categories of logics and genres. The first is conventional. This is very much embedded in positivistic research traditions such as deductive, uncritical use of a priori theories and principles as they are. And analytical, this is a kind of dichotomous categories being used in terms of meaning making, like either true, false, yes, no, kind of proved or disproved kind of thing. And the other one is propositional, very much declarative, cut and dry, and very much impersonalized kind of writing. Okay. Second one is second type of logics that we use. Logics and genres use metaphors, poetry, narrative, dialectical and dialectics, and non-linguistic genres. So there might be many, but we have been using some of these logics and genres. Why we use this type of logics and genres? Because in positivistic research, the emphasis is on neutrality. Here we are not neutral, actually, so to speak, because we have been driven by certain axiological perspective that the goal of this research is to improve, is to transform the situation. So here, we use the rationality of public good, not the rationality of neutrality. Therefore, we are very much driven by the metaphorical, narrative, dialectical, poetic, non-linguistic genres. So that logics and genres. So we have used these in order to make sense of our being in the world, of the researchers being in the world. So how these research are regulated? What are the quality standards? The first of which is verisimilitude. Unlike the realist, idea of validity, because the emphasis of validity is to make it generalizable and make it stable. Because this type of research is not stable. This keeps on changing. There are many emergent kind of perspectives researchers might have not planned in the beginning. So that's why in order to sort of suit that type of research tradition, research process, we have used this verisimilitude. Actually, in qualitative research traditions, this quality standard is introduced to address the triple crisis of representation, because the triple crisis of representation, legitimacy, and praxis is because of the very nature of the text that we produce. Because the text might be incomplete, the text might not represent who our true selves, and so verisimilitude is an approach to sort of establishing some kind of connection with the truth, the text and the context, the connection between text and the context. So that can be so in our research, we sort of encourage researchers to ask this question and address this quality standard. For example, the first question is, does the text sound true according to your experience? If we find another reader, then they ask the readers, or the readers might be their supervisor, their colleagues, even their external examiners. Second would be I mean, research cannot be done for the sake of, the individual interest. It has to be broader. The issue should be significant in the community. For example, if we're talking about STEM education community, so it has to be significant in that community. It has to be connected well. So are educational issues raised by the researcher's text relevant beyond the research context? So that is another very important question. Whether the educational issues are limited or expanded in their nature, whether they use significant socio-political agenda or not. So this is one standard. Second standard, pedagogical thoughtfulness, thanks to Van Manen. Because we are interested in transforming the landscape of STEM education, then one of the goals of this research is to pedagogical thoughtfulness. It's not just to unpack the truth, but use the truth to change the pedagogical landscape. So in that context, the researcher raised this question when he or she is writing his or her thesis. To what extent does my text arouse interest in exploring the reader's pedagogical history? Does my text provoke readers to reflect upon their pedagogical beliefs and values? So the third is critical reflexivity. One of the goals of critical research or transformative research is to help readers to be aware of their limitations and their agency as well. So in that sense, the researcher becomes asked this question: have I exposed enough about myself as far as the issue is concerned? It's not everything about himself or herself, but as far as the connection between the researcher's positionality and the research issue is concerned. Have I made my theoretical standpoints clear to the reader? So that is also very, very important. And third is, so because there are lots of subjective dimensions in this type of research. So in order to move us beyond this static subjectivity, we need to embrace critical and progressive subjectivity. So in that sense, the researcher has to be very, very aware, has to demonstrate those awareness. So the third question the researcher asks in maintaining this quality standard is this: have I demonstrated my conscious awareness of my own subjectivity? The final quality standard is very much associated with this dialectical thinking, dialectical tradition, because people might fall in a trap of unidimensional thinking as far as critical theory research is concerned. So sometimes we may not be able to address those concerns. Like we go in a very much unidimensional critique, or we become dualist. Although we say we do not we embrace dialectical thinking, sometimes we might not be able to issue other sides of the coin. So for this, whenever possible, the researcher asks these questions can be asked: to what extent does the researcher take into account alternative viewpoints, adversaries? To what extent does the researcher unify logic, emotion, and imagination so as to generate holistic understanding of the issues or phenomena under study? So, in order to see these standards being applied, we need to take a perspective of research as doing to research as writing and research as reading. So research is the idea of research shifts here towards reading and writing, so that once the reader gets into our research projects or research reports, then they might find something useful in their practice, so that those research reports help them to become critical, pedagogically aware, pedagogically thoughtful, and they might be able to envision their own pedagogical processes in a better way, in an inclusive way, in an empowering way. So this is the purpose of our research. This is how we have come to the end of our presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you and Dhanyavad. Namaste. Thank you very much.